So it's two different projects, the emergency versus the
Right.
long-term construction. So looking at the long-term fix, or the construction piece, we'll call it, you have funding for Reach 2. You do not have funding for Reach 3 and 4, and that's the 3 years that we were coming up with using the current a portion of the current half cent. This is the conversation that we need to have with tourism this week. So if we stick to that plan, we can finish constructing Reach 3 and potentially whatever's going to be needed on 4. The challenge comes in with maintaining it and not having money at the local level to cover the grant or the matches. So when you go through FEMA and you have Cat B or Cat G approval, you still need to have 12.5% at the local level. We don't have that. And then you're going to need money at the local level for those periodic renourishments. We don't have that. So the money that we were trying to capture is to cover that ongoing maintenance and to provide money at the local level so that we have money available when we have the 12.5%. Because like right now we had set aside $5 million in the current budget, but you've got 2.2 going out for a portion of it, and then another portion of it will be used when we roll out those FEMA Cat G projects. So that's going to cut into the $5 million that we set aside, which means when we start looking at the calculation of what do we need then over the next 3 years, we'd already accounted for that $5 million. So now we have to recapture whatever we're spending as part of the budget, plus bring back whatever we need for the construction.
But part of why I wanted to make sure we had time to review with TDC was we may have additional questions through the TDC members that may actually add clarity or provide some other thoughts that we hadn't necessarily thought of or options. So I think we make it through TDC and listen to the TDC board members so that we can add that to the data set we're building.
So just a question. On the diagram from today, it says BOCC 2.2 million fund 1111 and 1311. So why is that cutting into the $5 million?
Because that's where the $5 million is sitting. Part of it is in your 111 fund, I believe, is the tourism beach account, and then the other portion is in your half cent.
Where's the $5 million that the original funding plan said it's coming from the general fund? Where's that $5 million?
Nothing was coming from the general fund. It was the initial $5 million that was set aside in this budget was, you had a makeup of, I believe it was $3 million, which was from one pot of money and $2 million from the other. I thought it was, I have to go back and just verify. I thought it was $3 million out of half cent, $2 million out of the tourist development.
That's correct. That's what it was. That's the current half cent.
Okay, so then...
Not the new half cent.
So my
Good
other
evening,
challenge
and welcome
is
to SpaceX's
I
live
contacted
coverage of our
the
third
Army Corps of
Bandwagon
Engineers
rideshare
and
mission.
asked them for all
The
the
Falcon 9 rocket you see on your screen is currently scheduled for liftoff
current
at 8:48 p.m.
projects
Eastern Time from Space
and
Launch
their
Complex
intervals.
40 at Cape
And
Canaveral
their
Space
interval
Force Station in
for
Florida.
Flagler County is 11
Thanks
years.
for joining. My name is Zachary Lupin,
Brevard
and I'm an
County
avionics
is 3
supply chain
years.
engineer
There's
here at
3
SpaceX, joining
portions
you
of
from
Brevard
Hawthorne,
County.
California.
It ranges from 3 to 6
And I'm
years.
Amanda Years, a ground systems
Broward
engineer
County
here at
is
SpaceX.
6.
There are
Dade
3
is 10,
spacecraft aboard this
Duval
mission
is
for our
4,
customers, including
Flagler
Korea
is 11,
Agency for Defense
Fort
Development,
Pierce is 2,
Atmos Space Cargo,
Lee
and
County
Tomorrow
is
Companies,
22,
Inc. At the top of
Manatee
the satellite
is
stack
9,
sits our primary
Martin
payload,
is 8,
Korea
NASA's
ADD's
5,
425
so on and so
Sat-3.
forth. It's
Also
all here.
on board is Tomorrow Company Inc.'s
St.
Tomorrow
Lucie is
57
18.
and Atmos Space Cargo's
So
Phoenix
we
re-entry
bring
capsule.
in a
Now, our
a
Bandwagon missions launched
consultant
to a
that
mid-inclination
says it's
orbit,
closer to
differing
6,
from our
but
transporter
our
rideshare missions,
program
which launched
and
to
our
a
contract
sun-synchronous
with
orbit.
the Army Corps
The
is
mid-inclination
411.
orbit fills in the gaps for our
And
customers that
as
want to
stated
expand their
earlier,
coverage or complete
Mother
unique
Nature is
mission
going to
objectives,
determine
because changing the
what our
inclination of an
interval
orbit
is.
changes the
We
way
haven't
a
even
satellite
lived through
moves
one
around the
interval,
Earth.
not even a year yet.
Mid-inclinations offer a
So
higher revisit rate, indicating that satellites in
I
this
think
orbit
our
fly over the
interval
same
is
point
very
on Earth faster
conservative,
than they would
if
in some
not
other orbits.
more.
Rideshare missions significantly increase access to space
Anyway,
for small satellite operators
It's
around the
okay.
world.
I mean, just
and we're
bring
committed to
the
continuing
vote
these launch
whenever you want to
opportunities
bring the
for our
vote,
customers.
but
To date, SpaceX has launched
don't see the math
1,130 small
working.
sats for more than 130
I think
customers
it's
across our
overtaxing.
entire
I'm
rideshare
just, that's
program.
where I am.
To learn more about the
I don't know
program,
where
visit
the rest of the people are, but,
spacex.com/rideshare.
I don't see it as the only
And back to
option
the
that we
countdown
have.
for tonight's mission. Everything is currently looking good
What
for
would,
an on-time liftoff.
asking back
As a reminder,
to
this will be
Ms.
the
Petito,
third
what
flight
would
of the
be
first stage booster supporting
the
this mission, which
recommendation from
previously
here? Do
launched
we,
O3B, M-Power-E, and
would
NASA
it be
Crew 10.
helpful if we got the,
And following
at
stage
least
separation,
from
the first
commission,
stage
if we
will
got
land
the
at
ILAs
Landing Zone 2
and
at
pursued
Cape
the
Canaveral Space
ILAs,
Force Station.
Weather on
so
the
that you
East
had that
Coast is
information
green
in
with
your
greater
hip
than
pocket,
95% favorable
and the
conditions,
support from
and the
the
range
other
is ready to support.
communities.
If for some reason
that
we
help
don't
you
launch
or
today,
not?
we do have a backup opportunity tomorrow at 8:26 p.m. Eastern.
And one final note, at our customer's request, we'll be ending our webcast a little bit earlier
I'm
than
just
usual
trying to think of a
today,
timeline that we
just
can
after the landing of the
have
Falcon 9
staff
first stage.
follow.
So with that, let's take a look
from,
at one of the
some type
Bandwagon
of
payloads we'll be sending to orbit
timeline
today,
so that
Tomorrow
they can
57,
work
on
toward
behalf
either
of Tomorrow Companies.
developing. I guess they can do both.
The
but
impact of
develop
what we're
some
doing
additional
tomorrow is once in
potential
a
options when we bring it back, but also
There's
bring
so
the
many
ILAs to the
challenges and obstacles
mill.
along the way.
in the other cities, so we have as
Most
much information
weather
for
companies
you
have access to the same data.
review when we do need to call the question.
We are putting instruments in space. So many things can go wrong.
Because I think there's a lot of
Is hourly coverage enough, or do we need to go down to 30 minutes or
support
better?
within the other jurisdictions, and
We're
some of
seeing
that may
heavier
get
rainfall.
clarified.
We're
if we
seeing
actually
stronger
bring it to
hurricanes
them.
and tornadoes and
the
all
ILAs
types of
to them
storms, and we're
first.
seeing them more frequently.
that
So
may be
the
an internal
economy is
discussion to
basically
have to see if
begging for data, begging to have
that's,
better weather
if that's
forecasts so
right.
they know
Mr. Salinas?
literally what's coming.
People cannot, businesses cannot just consume models out of the gate. They need a product, a platform that can help them make decisions at scale so they can become more resilient. That's the
Are
goal.
you asking? I'm just trying to
Tomorrow.io
get
had,
clarification. Are you
had
asking
essentially decided that
whether
microwave sounder
we should go
is
to
going to be
the
where they're going to
municipalities
focus on.
and
With our constellation, once it's
go
fully
to
in
the
place,
ILA
you can see that
process
there's
and
hardly
bring
any
it back
gaps
to
left.
the board?
Devoting your life
Because
to
I
building hardware
do
that
believe
goes to
that might
space
be-
is a
That
bit
might
of
be
insanity.
an issue for if I
Because
was
you
sitting
spend
in
a
their
lot of
shoes
time
to get this approved
And then there's
and
this
not
one
know
moment
what
where
the vote is going to be
whatever
here
you build
in the
gets launched
commissioner,
and
because if
either
they get that
works or
authority
it
there
doesn't.
and gets denied here, they're going to be spending this global capital.
I have
on
seen something
something that
go
is not
from
workable. So
hardware
I think
in a
we have to be
pile
cautious from that
to
perspective.
being launched in a year and a half.
You get the first scan from space and it looks beautiful. It's like, holy cow, you know, we made it.
Which changes everything that we've thought of as critical in the last 30 years.
Any other
we win,
solution that
everyone
we have
wins.
is going to actually
It's truly a game
cause
changer technology
ad valorem
that
tax
is
to
helping every
any
individual
other solution.
out there.
Yeah, and I don't believe there is another solution out there.
Well, for clarity, it does raise taxes on things people buy.
But not
Another
on food,
exciting
not on
payload
medicine.
on board today
Only
is
so much of a
Atmos
car.
Space
Just
Cargo's
I had to
Phoenix
clarify it,
re-entry
otherwise
capsule.
it's going to get.
During this
Well, I've
mission,
seen it
Atmos is
interpreted
looking to
later.
become the
Well,
first
I've seen the
non-governmental
figures that it has
European
since sales
entity
tax
to
on a
attempt
normal family
re-entry
is
from space.
$10 for the year.
And another notable
So,
first for this mission, when
you
Phoenix
know,
separates
that's
from Falcon
not
9
big.
second
And
stage,
you always-
it will
you
be
always have the
SpaceX's
argument
first
that
time deploying a spacecraft after a second stage deorbit burn.
non-residents
Here's a
in
little bit more
Flagler
from our
County are
customer
gonna pay
on the
as much
Phoenix
as
re-entry
30%
capsule.
of the bill, in the
Atmos
capsule
Space
sales
Cargo
tax.
was founded
So,
by
to
four
me,
co-founders.
it's an elegant
My name is
solution.
Sebastian Klaus.
So I'm Marla
without
Oliveira.
raising taxes.
My name is Christian Grimm. My name is Jeffrey Hendrickse.
Atmos has grown
and
to
to
more
get
than
this
40 employees as of today.
We came together as a team and to
is,
create
it's
something
not for
unique
the-
and hopefully life-changing
not for the,
for many.
And enable
major
Europe
construction.
to do
I
a
mean, it
giant
does
leap
help
ahead
fund
in
that,
space
but
exploration.
It helps with the ongoing
One of the biggest challenges in the space industry today
maintenance
is
of the
to return
beach. And Kim,
spacecraft
I don't understand
or
why
cargo
that,
from space.
It's immaterial.
With
what other
Phoenix,
counties
we are
doing.
developing a breakthrough
The
technology.
Flagler Beach has to be able to
Phoenix
maintain,
uses an
if we
inflatable
don't do something,
atmospheric
then every
decelerator
year,
for re-entry.
is we will have to do
No one
every
has ever
year.
done this
They're gonna have
before
to
in this
maintain
scale and
the
scope.
beach, and they don't have the money to do that.
Atmos is
If
the
we don't
first
take
company
control
in
of the
Europe
whole
to
18
commercialize
miles
this kind of
and get this
technology.
funding plan in place.
This is a novel
then
concept,
the,
as the design and configuration of our
incorporated
technology were
everything
largely
to bring
undefined.
Flagler Beach.
While theoretically there are models in aerothermodynamics, the aerodynamic stability, the control, and the structural resilience of our system still had to be verified. So we were trying to do less simulation and more real iterations. We needed to get out of the lab, out of the computer, and really into the real-life conditions. We refined our models, we adjusted, redesigned, and tested them again and again. With our test-driven prototype-first approach, we built a spacecraft that is now set to launch into low Earth orbit, faster than any other re-entry vehicle before. Now, Phoenix is ready for liftoff.
Excited to see how this will develop in the future.
She's pointing out
I think this has the potential of
variety
transforming the entire space industry. If there's one team that can make it happen, it's probably this one.
Coastal county to the next. So we're utilizing the best data we have for Flagler, but the
Our
fact is it
Bandwagon-3
ranges
payloads are currently
drastically
awaiting
from
liftoff
Nassau
of
down
Falcon
to West
9
Palm
in
Beach.
just
For
over
what reason?
5
I mean,
minutes and
the
45
scientists
seconds.
are
While the
determining it
countdown
based on
continues, let's
some
meet
modeling,
SpaceX's
and I
Falcon 9
know-
rocket. Falcon
and I
9
know,
is a
yeah,
two-stage
yeah,
rocket
right.
designed for the reliable and safe
So it's-
transport
it's,
of satellites, cargo, and
I know
people
the
to outer space.
revision which brought it
Located
a much
at the
more
very top of the
frequent
rocket
interval,
is the
which
payload fairing.
pushes that
The fairing is a
the
protective
seabed,
shell
the
that
sand
houses
back
all of the
further out
spacecraft,
for the
shielding them from
protection and for
aerodynamic heating
Mother
and
Nature to
mechanical
do its
stress
thing
until
over
the
time.
vehicle is outside of the Earth's atmosphere.
But I think
now, the
Commissioner
aerodynamic
Hanson's
shape of the
dangerous for
fairing
us to
also
speak,
contributes to Falcon 9's overall efficiency,
in regards
helping to reduce drag
the
while the
effect
vehicle
of the
accelerates
sales
through the
tax on
atmosphere.
everybody. I think
Once
we
in
need to be
space, the two
careful
fairing
of
halves
saying that
separate to
it's
expose the
minimal
payloads to the vacuum
because
of space.
everybody's
The
situation
fairing
is
halves will
different.
then fall back to Earth, where they are recovered by
Right.
SpaceX to be
But
refurbished
even
and reused on
10,
future flights.
15, $50 a year is impactful depending on
There you heard
certain
confirmation.
people. So I just want to make sure
Preparing
we're
for
cautious
strong
that we
back
don't
retract. So this evening,
overstate
one of
the
one
elegance.
of the fairing halves will be
stated.
flying
I
for
don't
its
know that-
15th time.
You were
and the
worried
other
about
will be flying for
sedentary.
its
I have
second
problems
time.
with elegant.
And right below the fairing, we have our second stage, which houses our single Merlin
what do we
vacuum
do? We
engine,
add a whole
or
full-
MVAC engine, which will take our
Penny or a
payloads to their
full-
drop-off point.
We go from 8
Now,
point
below the
something
second
to
stage is the
when we-
black
I think
carbon
when we
fiber
come back,
interstage,
If we're
where the
gonna
MVAC
do
engine
I think when we come back, we will
and good call
look
out
at
there for a strong back retract
the
start.
options that are available.
Now,
for
below
us.
the second stage is the
And I
black
think
carbon
we will
fiber
come
interstage, where the
to
MVAC engine is located.
solutions that
The
will,
interstage connects the two stages
based
and
on what
houses
I'm
the
hearing,
center pusher
everybody-
that allows the first and
everybody
second stages to
has-
separate during flight.
sees the need to protect
Moving
the
down
beach.
the vehicle, below
within
the
the next
interstage, we have
month,
the first
month and a
stage,
half,
which we
we're going to
tend
get to a
refer
point
as
where
the
we're going to
booster.
figure that
The
out.
first stage makes up the bottom
Chair,
two-thirds
for
of
the
the
two new
vehicle and is
commissioners,
equipped
I think
with
it'd
9
behoove them to
Merlin
see the
1D or
stormwater
M1D
plan that
engines
we have
at the base.
unfunded in the West.
Those 9 Merlin engines
And the
do the
rest
bulk
not
of the work to
incorporated
get the rocket
county.
off the ground and up to the
The last time
thinner
I
parts of
spoke
Earth's
with
atmosphere,
staff about that, they
generating
were
more
just
than
told
1.7
not to address
million
the
pounds of
stormwater
thrust.
funding. It's gone away.
Now, at about 2.5 minutes in flight, the first stage will separate and make its way back to Earth, attempting a land-based landing at LZ2, not too far from the actual launch pad. And tonight's mission is the third flight for this booster.
And it's another thing that looms over us. So when we commit this kind of funding, such a large project, we still have residents experiencing flooding with a plan that's not funded as well.
And if successful, this landing
So
will
it's
mark
another-
SpaceX's 435th landing
another
of
thing
an
to
orbital class rocket.
And if I'm not mistaken, a half a cent becomes a
Now, at
cent.
T minus 3 minutes and
It
about
rolls
15
up.
seconds, all systems continue
not
to
a
be
half a
go
cent.
for an on-time liftoff. At liftoff, the transporter erector, or TE, will
fraction.
retract
It's-
away from the vehicle
we've
to
got to
clear
the
the
point
way
where
for
we can
Falcon 9's
calculate a
ascent,
half
which you've
cent.
seen some great views of
Well,
on
I've
screen.
been told it's a full cent, so I'm just asking. I just don't see
Now,
us
at this point in the
taxing any more than
countdown,
we
both
already
the first
have.
and second stages are nearly
Prices of
fully loaded with
housing,
1 million pounds
affordable
of kerosene
housing is-
fuel and liquid
is
oxygen.
near
Falcon 9
impossible.
uses 2 propellants, a refined
people
form
are
of kerosene called RP1 or
terribly
rocket
that
propellant
don't
1
have,
as a fuel,
some
and LOX or
elderly
liquid
people
oxygen
are
as an
on
oxidizer.
$600 and $700 a month
Now,
to
at the
live.
T-minus 60-second mark, Falcon 9 will be
this
in
is-
startup, and this means the rocket's autonomous
even know
internal
they
flight
have enough
computers
gas
will
to
have
get to
taken
the
over the
beach.
launch countdown. And
So
just
I
inside
really
of
just-
T-minus
and
2
I'm not
seconds,
saying
we'll light
everybody
the
has the
M1D engines for
opportunity to
liftoff.
Stage 1
But
launch load is
not
complete.
everybody has the money to do it, and I've heard from a lot of people that it will hurt them, and that's what they've told me. So I'm
Now,
not
the
really
Bandwagon-3
interested in raising
payloads
taxes
continue to be
per se,
healthy, and
but
at this
I'm
time,
sure
the
there's
Falcon
other
9
ways of finding it
team is
somewhere,
tracking no issues on the
someplace,
rocket.
through some
Currently,
other pro-
weather
we're
is
building-
green and
we've got
range is ready to support
$500,000
a
kitchen.
T0 of 8:48 p.m. Eastern
I
Time.
mean,
Now,
I
if
see
stage
these
2 launch
projects
load
and I
is
see
complete.
these money
And good call out there for stage 2 LOX loading completion.
About the
Now,
money,
if for some reason we do not launch today, we do have a backup opportunity tomorrow at 8:26 p.m. Eastern Time. And as we enter the last 2 minutes of the countdown, let's listen in for the call outs.
Why do they want half a penny from me? That's what I'm.
But that's your job to clarify where that's coming from.
Okay, I'll do my job then, Andy. I'll do my job.
You may have noticed the white clouds around the vehicle, and those are completely normal and are comprised of the chilled gas in the LOX tank that is vented overboard so that we can backfill and maintain pressure in the tanks as needed.
Every day, because I do speak to people every day, but I'm going to leave it at that.
Now coming up next at the T-minus 1 minute mark, Falcon 9 will be in startup.
And my only point
rocket's
with the Army
autonomous
Corps,
internal flight
the
computers will have
11-year,
taken over
whatever
launch
the
countdown,
modeling used,
and then just
I don't
inside
know
of
what
T-minus 2
Olson
seconds,
used for
Falcon 9 will
modeling.
light
I don't
the
know what
M1D
studies
engines
they
for liftoff.
did. I'm open to understanding or learning what the model is for 6 years. It was just a way to
Falcon 9 is in startup.
Now with that confirmation,
stretch
next
out
up the launch
the
director will give the
possibility
final
of stretching
poll for
out
launch, so let's listen
the
in.
funding to give it a more palatable number.
Launch director, go for launch.
We don't know what the number is. What if we have to take?
And at
What if we have
T-minus
to
40
bond
seconds,
tomorrow?
all systems are go for Falcon 9's launch
$50
of
million.
Bandwagon-3. So
I'm
let's
not
listen into the
saying
final
it's
countdown.
that we're not going to do it. What I'm saying is,
T-minus
I'd
30
like to
seconds.
see other approaches on how we can get it done.
And Commissioner Richardson, I'm not downplaying the impact of a half penny.
T-minus 15
I'm
seconds.
just saying that there is the opposite side of that is the
T-minus
economic
10,
impact
9,
to
8,
the county
7,
and to the
6,
community from
5,
having that
4,
plan
3,
and ensuring
2,
the viability
1,
of the beach, which
ignition,
could be the same person
engines full power,
sustaining
and
their,
liftoff. Go Falcon,
their
go
job
Bandwagon-3.
and their future employment
Stage 1 propulsion is
potentially
nominal.
based on what happens with the beach.
I
Vehicles pitching
didn't say
downrange.
that the plan should not be stopped. I didn't say anything about the
No,
plan.
I
I'm
just-
talking about a half-cent sales tax. That's it.
Right.
Just period. That's all I discussed. So it's not about that.
All right.
That's
yes.
another thing. I met with Jay Gardner about the working number for our
Now
budget
at the
for this
T
year.
plus 32
You know,
second
we haven't even stepped into
moment, Falcon 9 has lifted
that
off
realm.
from Space Launch Complex 40 at
there
Cape
is
Canaveral
something to be
Spaceport
said
Station.
for
We are
if you
currently
pay for
throttling
it,
down
you
to
own
prepare
it.
for max Q, the
I
point
mean,
of maximum
what if
aerodynamic
Comcast
stretch.
comes back and says, "Oh, this is
On the
great
vehicle, good call
revenue
out there
for us.
power and
I would like to
nominal.
change
You
that
can
up a little
monitor
bit."
the vehicle's
If we
telemetry in the
control
lower
it, we
left-hand
pay
corner
for
of
it,
your
we
screen.
control it. I want to be able to
Vehicle
see
is
some
supersonic.
numbers outside of the half-cent sales tax that can get this more
Max
palatable.
Q.
Okay.
I just wanted to clarify something, or at least clear the air.
And there we heard that call out
Administration has
for
not
Max
told
Q.
anybody to
Coming up shortly,
cancel
we're going to
working
have several
on
events happening in
projects
quick
because
succession.
we don't have funding
First is MECO,
established
or
for
main.
stormwater.
Good call
We
out there.
brought
First will
back-
be
That
MECO,
was what
or
was
main
told to
engine
me by
cutoff,
staff.
where all
And
9
I
Merlin
I'll
engines
tell
will
you
shut
another
down
thing,
in
because this
preparation
board
for
probably
stage
doesn't know
separation,
it. I stood on the corner
which
of
is where the
305
first
and
stage
302,
separates
and
from
I
the second
asked
stage.
for,
Following this, the Falcon 9 first stage
at the
will then
time, it
perform
was
a
6
flip
street
maneuver
signs to
concurrently
be
with the
replaced
MVAC
that are
engine
completely
on the
faded
second
and gone.
stage starting up. Then we'll see the start of the boost back burn on the Falcon 9 first stage, followed by fairing separation. So keep an eye out for all of these events happening in about 30 seconds from now.
Main engine cut off. Stage separation confirmed. MVAC ignition. Stage 1 boot back startup. Fairing separation confirmed.
And there we heard those events that happened back to back, which again were main engine cutoff, stage separation, stage 1 flip, second engine start 1, the start of the boost back burn on the first stage, and fairing separation.
Now we are currently awaiting the conclusion of the boost back burn, which will properly orient the first stage for re-entry into the atmosphere. And the second stage is firing, which you can monitor in the lower right-hand corner of your screen.
Stage 1 boost back shutdown.
There's that confirmation of first stage boost back shutdown. So the next milestone coming up is entry burn on our first stage, scheduled to occur around the T+6 minute and 30-second mark. Now that boost back burn is complete, Falcon 9 will perform 2 more burns in order to land. The first of the 2 burns is entry burn to slow itself down before hitting the denser parts of the Earth's atmosphere. You can think of this as similar to pumping the brakes on your car.
And without this burn, we'd only be using the atmospheric drag alone to slow down Falcon 9, which adds extra stresses onto the rocket. A single Merlin 1D engine will relight for this particular entry burn.
Following the entry burn, the booster will go through its final burn, the landing burn, which should slow the vehicle down even more for a successful landing.
Now, as you can make out on the screen there, Falcon 9 is equipped with 4 hypersonic grid fins, which are positioned near the top of the first stage, and those help steer the first stage as it returns back to Earth.
You may also notice the white puffs coming off of Falcon 9, and that comes from cold nitrogen gas, which helps with attitude control. These help to make small adjustments as Falcon 9 heads back to Earth.
Now, when Falcon 9 fires up the center M1D engine for re-entry, the vehicle will be flying through Merlin's exhaust gases, also known as the rocket's plume, which deposits a layer of soot on the vehicle's surface. And you'll see these marks across the flight-proven Falcon 9 first stage fleet.
Now, the M1D engines on the first stage and the MVAC engine on Falcon 9's second stage are each optimized to perform in their unique operating environments. An M1D engine generates approximately 190,000 pounds of thrust compared to the MVAC engine, which can generate a little bit over 220,000 pounds. The MVAC nozzle extension, which you've seen in the views this evening, is also significantly taller with a larger diameter compared to the M1D engine for optimal performance in a vacuum environment.
Now, coming up in about 30 seconds from now, we should be hearing that call out for the Falcon 9 first stage entry burn. As a reminder, this booster will be performing this burn for its 3rd time this evening.
Stage 2 FTS has saved.
And good call out there. This booster previously supported the O3B Empower E mission and the NASA Crew 10 mission. And there's confirmation of that stage 1 entry burn startup. This burn will last about 20 seconds.
Stage 1 entry burn shutdown.
And that concludes our entry burn. So the first stage has 1 more burn left to prep for landing. As mentioned earlier, we will be attempting to recover this booster, targeting a landing at Landing Zone 2, which is not far from our launch pad.
Now, the Falcon 9 first stage is equipped with 4 landing legs, which are made of a carbon fiber with aluminum honeycomb mesh, and these are placed symmetrically around the base of the rocket and will deploy just prior to touchdown of the booster.
Now, you may notice the number 3 in today's mission name, indicating that this mission is our...
Stage 1 FTS has saved.
This mission is our 3rd dedicated rideshare mission to a mid-inclination orbit. Rideshare significantly increases access to space for small satellite operators around the world.
Stage 1 landing burn.
Now, this is the beginning of Falcon 9's final burn, the landing burn.
1 landing leg deploy. Stage 1 landing confirmed.
And there we have it, another successful first stage landing at Landing Zone 2, making the third landing for this specific booster and SpaceX's 435th landing of an orbital-class rocket.
Now, as that booster descended, you may have also seen the booster that previously supported our CRS-32 mission last night. And with confirmation of booster landing, we'll be bringing today's webcast to a close.
For those interested in learning more about today's payloads and deployments, head over to our customers' websites for more information. To stay up to date with all of our missions, check out spacex.com/launches for schedules.
We'd also like to thank all of our rideshare customers for entrusting us with their spacecraft today. And as always, a big thank you to the Range and the FAA for their ongoing support.
That will do it for us here at SpaceX Hawthorne. Good night, everyone, and thank you for tuning in.